I hate to be so cynical, but it's money. And that's not something that we say out loud
It's not
very
the kids.
often. It's not the kids. It's who is going to control the money.
Welcome to the Family Matters podcast. I'm Derek Oestreicher, Chief Legal Counsel for the Montana Family Foundation. I'm really excited today. We're here with an incredible guest, Trish Schreiber, my dear friend, and education savant, if I can call you that. You do so many things in the world of education. You run Schreiber Educational Services. You are a guest writer for the Frontier Institute on all matters relating to education. And you're also the chair of the Community Choice School Commission for the state of Montana. You've just dedicated your life and all of your resources and skills and knowledge, there's a wealth of it, to education. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. That was such a nice introduction. And you got Community Choice Schools Commission out in one piece, which is not easy.
No, it's a tongue twister, but I read Dr. Seuss books to my kids, so I can handle that. You know, if you can read Yertle the Turtle, you can handle Community Choice School Commission. So thanks for joining us. This is a brand new world we're living in here. And I want to talk about school choice. And can you tell... Before we get into that, I think it's important that we define what that is in America, in Montana. What is school choice or educational freedom?
Right. So school choice is the idea that parents and guardians actually have a choice as to where they can send their children to school and how they want to send their children to school. So we don't really have that here in America because in all 50 states, we have it set up where district lines are drawn. And I'm going to just focus in on Montana now.
Yes.
And the district lines are very much like our county lines, and we know where we pay our property taxes to. They go to our county, and from there, they go to the state. The district lines are really the strongest lines that are drawn. Like when we pay our property taxes, half is going to that district and half is going to the county.
Yes.
Around that. So what we've done is we've created a system where the taxpayers of that district are responsible for funding the school. And that's where the idea of local control comes up.
Yes.
Like, okay, we need a board of trustees. They're volunteers. They run for school board, and they're making decisions about how those dollars are spent. But in actuality, you don't have a choice to support that school or not. And if you have a young family that's of school age, that's your choice. If you want a public school,
right,
then that's your choice. And quite frequently, especially in Montana, we're very rural. If you don't have a private school around, then you really have two choices. You have the public school, or you can homeschool, which is the ultimate education freedom, where the parents are really the drivers of their children's education. But as we know, that's not something that logistically every family can handle, or financially it's too much of a burden for them.
Yes.
So they look to the schools. And so we do, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but we do have some exceptions where you can have inter-district agreements where children can cross district lines.
Yes.
But that's brand new. I mean, we just passed that legislation in 2023, and that's a great thing. But what I would like to do is take an eraser and just get rid of all those district lines and, find a way for people to choose to support their public schools in a way that's not so compulsory.
Right.
And go in that direction, have options of other public schools.
Right.
Kind of get up and going. Education pluralism is another term to throw into this.
What is that?
So it's kind of just what it sounds like. So as far as all the democratic countries go, so about 80% of them actually have education pluralism. And America is an outlier. We do not have that. And what that means is that you pay your taxes to the state, and those taxes will go towards education. And The percentage is decided by the taxpayers, the legislature, and parents actually can choose where they send their kids to school. So they can say, oh, I want to go to this Catholic school that's, closer to my work, or I want to go to this Christian school that maybe is going to be a little bit of a drive, but that's where I want my kid to go. So
Yes.
I'm going to go there, or I want to homeschool, or I want to go to this district school that's right here, and they have buses that are going there, and they have all this stuff going on. So that's where I want to be. That's choice. And now
Yes.
there's still a compulsory piece to that, right? Because
True.
we're being taxed for it. But I'm pretty sure most people believe that education is a public good, and everything starts with education.
Yes.
And education changes everything.
Yes.
So I don't think there would be too much of a riot if, people decided to just have their tax dollars go to families so they could truly make a choice of where they'd like to go to school.
So education pluralism, if I can summarize, and you tell me where I'm wrong, I mean, it's essentially the concept that those tax dollars that would otherwise be compulsory and mandated to go to your district, that it would actually follow your child to wherever they're going to school.
That's exactly right.
And so obviously, we're going to run into problems there.
Sure.
If you're choosing to send your child to a Christian school, for example, you're going to have people protesting that they don't want tax dollars going to a Christian school. But that shouldn't be a problem if it's your tax dollars, right?
Right, and it should be your decision. That's the main point. And what's so interesting is in the 80% of countries in UNESCO who do have education pluralism, they don't have these arguments. This isn't something that's going, when Americans talk about school choice or education freedom, they're like, what do you mean? Of course you have school choice. You just choose, from all these options of where you want to send your kids to school.
Right.
And Americans are like, no, we don't get that choice. Like,
Right.
we all are paying the taxes, whether our kids go there or not, and that's the one school that we get to go to.
Trish, can we take even a step back? I mean, this idea of school choice, it's kind of illusory in the first place to begin with, because there are countries and systems around the world where education is not mandatory. And so truly, parents who want to better the lives of their children and seek education, they're actually making that initial choice in the first place. And we don't even do that in America. We kind of take our education for granted because it's compulsory.
Right.
Can you touch on that? I mean, I know you've read everything there is to read about education, but you were sharing with me earlier about some stories from cultures and societies and communities that do this.
Right. So, again, all of our 50 states have compulsory education laws. Montana has some, and I believe ours are that parents are required to send their kids to school from age 7 to 16. So that's the compulsory age band. But you bring up a good point, Derek. Like, what parent wouldn't want to send their child to school? I mean, what parent doesn't want their child to have the best opportunity in life? And it's so natural for parents to love and care for their children. I mean, in fact, most parents are genetically coded to do so.
Yes.
So, but not all, but most.
Yes.
And so that's just a natural instinct. If we got rid of compulsory education laws, would we have some Huck Finns running around? Probably. But that would be the price we would be paying for freedom. But
Yes.
again, if you've read Huck Finn, he turned out great.
Yeah, that's true.
He had it rough, right? And he made some peculiar decisions, but boy, did he have a great adventure.
Yeah. Well, and some might call that adventure and education in and of itself.
Absolutely. So, but I also know that civil society would step up, and this is what we see in some other countries, is that, for example, if we just closed every single district school tomorrow, I have no doubt in my mind that every single church that is out there in Montana would open up a school.
Yes.
The next day.
Yes.
Of course they would, because that's what civil society does, and that's the nature of our caring families here. I'm lucky to live in a rural town that has 2 churches and only one bar. So it's a good ratio.
Sure, 2-1.
And I know that both of those churches would, and there's, more churches within 15 miles or 20 miles. There's just, so many options. And that's what people do. So there's a great book, the one I was referencing earlier. The author's name is Thule. I can't think of his first name, but it's called The Beautiful Tree. And he has traveled around the world in Africa and India and all over Asia, actually, looking at decisions that parents have made about school. So sometimes these countries have compulsory education laws. Sometimes they don't, but they all pretty much offer some kind of a public option. And there are so many parents out there who truly live in poverty.
Yes.
And they do not want their public school, I don't care what the reasons are. Some of them say because they're so awful, the teachers are like watching TV the whole time, the kids are running amok, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. If a parent would like something different for their child, they should be able to do that. And these parents find a way. There are teachers who go out on their own and they're like, okay, for 25 cents a day, your kid can come here and I'm going to just make it work.
Yes.
And they put everything they have into it. The community helps build things, keep it clean, keep it running. The kids participate in doing that. And there's just one thing we can always count on in being human, and that's our ability to adapt.
Right.
And to innovate and create. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And so whatever the conditions are, we'll make it happen. And this is America. We have so much opportunity here. And it's so unique in where it sits in the world and in history. Of course we'd figure it out.
Yeah.
Of course we would.
And we are.
We are.
You talk about this concept of a teacher going out and say for 25 cents a day, you can send your kid here. That's kind of the micro school model. That's happening here in America. What are some of these, in your position on the Community Choice School Commission, what are some of the innovative models that you're seeing? I understand there's litigation.
Right.
But what are some models that you're seeing around the country, and what is the hope for the future of the school choice movement in Montana?
There are so many interesting charter school models out there. And again, in every state, the charter law is different. In Montana, we have our Community Choice Schools Act gives founding boards a ton of autonomy.
Yes.
What it doesn't give them is a ton of funding. But most charter schools can operate far, on a budget that's far, lower than a traditional public school.
Well, that's a great point. Let's set a baseline here, because I think people would be really shocked to know what the average per student, compensation, I would call it, to the school funds that they're receiving from the taxpayers. Do you know off the top of your head?
I do. It changes every year, and it depends on how much federal tax we have coming in and out. But the federal piece is about 8% anyway of the whole budget. So during the COVID years, it was a little bit higher, but for Montana, and it's so hard to find this number, by the way.
Really?
You have to really dig deep, to find this number. The per pupil expenditure is about $16,000.
Wow.
When you take local, state, and federal money, that's the average. But
private schools operate on much, much less.
Much less than that. Although I think I would say in Montana, from what I can tell, my kind of basic experience in just checking it out and asking the schools how much are you charging, it looks like it's about $10,000 is like the sweet spot where most schools can function at that. But that $10,000 is also, for schools that look like our schools, where they have gymnasiums, they have football fields, or they've got sports and extracurricular activities. So that all those amenities cost something. So a lot of these micro schools that are popping up, or charter schools, they're like, our PE is kickball, and we can do this for about $4,500 a student. And some parents are perfectly happy with that, because for whatever reason they've chosen the school, if it's to align their values, if it's for safety, which is usually the number one reason that parents are choosing to switch their child's school, they're like, that's worth it. We'll make it work. You know what? There's after school soccer. There's a league here. We're going to go participate in that, or wrestling, or whatever it is that the community has going on. But we've taken that role of civil society that should be offering sports, right? That should be offering enrichment, And we've put it in the hands of the public schools. And one thing I can tell you for sure is that anytime you take something and you give it to the government, it ends up being inefficient and extremely expensive.
Yes.
And so it makes no sense for the money to flow in that direction.
Proven time and time again.
Right.
And so really what you're advocating for, at least from the education pluralism point of view, is that you're actually putting that money in not so much in the pockets of the parents, but you're giving them autonomy and discretion to say, I'm going to send my child here. The money's going to flow here.
Right.
You're giving people a choice.
Right. So the word that they've been using legally in the lawsuits is directed. Parents should be able to direct the money. You're right. It's not giving it to them directly. That would be a voucher, and some states do have that.
Yes.
And that's not a bad word. That is a good word. There is freedom that comes with that. They've tried to make that a bad word. But it's directing the money. It's allowing the parents to direct the money
And
for
so
their education.
the school choice movement, over time, I mean, it's just exploded. And I think there's a deeper cultural meaning behind that explosion in interest for alternatives to the public education system. I mean, I have my own theories, and I'd love for you to weigh in. I mean, we talk about, just recently with Charlie Kirk's murder publicly, we had reports from a public school in another state where a teacher was railing against fascism and was showing 10-year-old students graphic images of Charlie Kirk's murder. And it caused public outrage. But this isn't the first story from a public school setting where parents are outraged at what their children are being presented with and confronted by. We have the LGBT movement and the woke agenda and DEI and racial policies. I mean, it's startling and scary for parents when they feel like they're forced into, we have to send our child to school. We can't afford another option. We have to send them here. And we're being told we can do nothing about the curriculum or what our children are being taught in school. Right. That's my theory. What do you think? Are there more reasons for?
Sure, there are. I mean, I think the most frustrating thing to be told is that it's not happening. When parents do know that it is happening. And again, it is not happening everywhere. I think even with all the school choice policies that have gone in, something like 90% of the students in America go to their district school, not their district school, but they go to a public school because of open enrollment laws in places like Arizona. I think their numbers are something like 75% of the students who go to public schools do not go to their district school. They shuffle around. Then again, they have that Phoenix metropolitan area where there's so many people. So there are lots of districts there.
Yes.
And lots of schools within the districts. And so it's a lot easier to shuffle around.
Yes.
Although you're stuck in traffic, which is something we don't have to worry about. But going back to what you were saying, It shouldn't matter. I mean, for parents, they should not have to disclose why they want something different. It should be a basic parental right to say, this is where I want my kid to go, and if there's room, I would like them to go there, whether it's a charter school, a traditional district school, or a private school, or homeschool, or a combination of all of them.
Yes.
I mean, lots of parents are now piecing together education where they're doing partial enrollment somewhere and then doing homeschooling in other areas.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true freedom.
I didn't answer your question. There were a lot of them there.
I went on. I mean, I think it started with COVID. There was an awakening with COVID where children were compelled to public education, but they were being homeschooled, and parents were saying, "What are you learning?
Right.
Why is this being taught in your math class?"
And that's where I wanted to go, is the idea of school choice or education freedom, which really goes back to Milton Friedman. Back in 1955, he wrote an essay about the government's role in education, where he makes the point that funding education is a public good.
Yes.
But just because the government is paying for the education, the government should not be providing it. And, that's the whole point about civil society stepping up. We should have multiple providers who have different views, different perspectives for parents to choose between. And they should be open about what their mission is so that when parents are making a choice, they're getting what they want. And as a provider, you're giving your audience what they want.
Right.
I mean, whatever that may be. And charter schools do that really well because in order to exist, they have to have a mission statement. And one of the things that they're judged on in their performance framework is whether or not they're meeting that mission. And you know how we know when they're not? The parents leave.
Yes.
Charter authorizers, so like our Community Choice Schools Commission, will be a statewide authorizer when they're allowed to actually do it. And what we know is that, so a charter contract will be for 5 years. If you decide, okay, you've got all this stuff thought out, you've got kids who want to go, parents who support this, the community's on board, here's your charter, and then here's some money to follow those students for the ones who come. Generally, within 2 to 3 years, families will bail if they don't want that school. And if the school doesn't they're not keeping their promise to the families will let the state know by leaving. And if they don't have enrollment, guess what? They don't get paid.
Yes.
Whereas our traditional schools are not allowed to close. I mean, if the enrollment gets down to like 4 kids, they'll close the school. That happened in near me. But again, if there are 4 kids, you can find other ways that are more efficient to educate them, if you can. Anyhow, so, you know, a lot of people, like in Arizona, they have charters for 15 years. And when they pass that law, everyone was like, oh, it's the Wild West of charter schools. It's going to be crazy. It's going to, you know, it's going to be a scam and a scheme. And, you know, people are going to waste the money. Again, within, you know, 2 to 3 years, the parents let you know whether or not that school is keeping its promise.
Yes.
And that's the ultimate accountability, right? If the parents have another place to go, they will.
And when parents are empowered to make that choice, do you see different outcomes? Do you see more parental involvement?
Right. Yes. Actually, a lot of charter schools have as part of their schools climate that they want parents specifically to participate in one way or another. They can't really force them to do it, but they give them so many opportunities so that parents can engage at whatever level. It doesn't necessarily mean showing up at the school. It might be a parent who can do something between the hours of 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. on the computer that is going to help the school. So there are lots of ways of finding opportunities for parents to do that.
Yeah.
So, and we just had the NAEP scores come out. So the nation's report card, it's the easiest way for people to remember it. And we posted earlier in the year, they posted the results for 3rd and 8th graders, and they just, what day is it today? Last week, they posted the results for high school. And the results for the whole nation, and it's random sampling of students from every state in public and charter schools. I think they do some private schools also, so they can kind of break out the tabs. And when you compare the traditional district schools to the charter schools, first off, there's been a downward trajectory since about 2012. And but the shining light there are the charter schools. They're the ones that are growing and that are doing better, and their students show improvements. There's still overall room for improvement even there. But I think also like the U.S. World News and Reports, they just did their rankings of high schools, and within the top 100, there were 25 charter high schools that hit that. And the other ones you can imagine are in pretty nice posh neighborhoods, you know, around the country. And actually, I'd like to point that out, that when we talk about school choice, parents with means, they've always had choice because they can choose to go to a neighborhood that has one of these really great public schools, because many of them are, or they can choose to pay for private school. But not every parent falls into that
Not
range.
everyone has that choice.
Right, right.
So this really levels the playing field for parents regardless of economic status. I mean, I imagine there's scholarships available. There's other programs with a voucher that tax money's going to be directed where that child's going to school. So you're really just empowering parents to seek out the best educational environment for their children.
Yeah, and we also know through studies that the more parents are involved in their child's education, the better those students do
Yes.
at whatever level, even if it's just like coaching football.
So it sounds
that
like
makes a difference.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Why resist it?
I know. It's so difficult. And I hate to be so cynical, but it's money. And that's not something that we say out loud
not
very
the kids.
often. It's not the kids. It's who is going to control the money.
Yes.
So with the compulsory education laws, with the district lines and the public school, and again, our Constitution guarantees that these traditional schools will be funded. So they're protected. They will be funded no matter what.
Yeah.
But there's still so little choice
Right.
within that. And it costs a lot of money. And I feel like the way the system is set up now, with the organizations that have developed around the education establishment, what they're doing is they're time and time and time again choosing the adults in the building over the children.
Yeah.
And that's rough to watch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's just so much resistance to changing that structure. I mean, I think if you have a monopoly, you're like, no, it's fine.
Right. Yeah.
Go pick on someone else.
Yeah. That's right. So what's next in the move? I mean, we're required by the Constitution to fund the traditional schools. I think final question for you would be, what's next for school choice? I mean, it sounds like there's so many other options available to parents. It just takes people with initiative and maybe with a little know-how. What's next, and how can people get in touch with you to get more involved on the school choice movement?
Great. So what's next is having access to these great policies that we've passed. So we have our special needs education savings account, which is
Yes.
also in the courts. Now, that is up and running. There are about 70 families who are actively using it right now, and those are the brave pioneers. Those
Yes.
are the ones who are like, we're going to take the risk and test this out to see if this is going to work. And they've had some come and go, because what you think is going to work in September might not work in May. So
Sure.
that, it's very brave of these parents to be the first ones to dip in. Just like when we have access to community choice schools, it'll be the brave parents who are the ones that put their child's name in the lottery to get chosen
Right.
for those schools. It's not easy to do that. So hopefully we'll have access to these new laws that we've passed, and ideally we will be passing more laws. This past session, we tried passing MAPS, which was Montana's Academic Prosperity Program for scholars.
Yes.
And that was a education savings account that
Yes.
goes through the tax code so that parents could either offset their educational expenses that they're paying already for a private school, or for expenses that maybe if they're,
If you need
I don't want to use the
tutoring
term
or-
homeschooling. I need to use a different, because homeschooling is definitely something separate. Like that's
Yeah.
very specific and unique.
Sure.
And
But if a
and
child
homes-
needs tutoring or something.
right,
Yes.
if they need to, but even if a parent decides that they want to educate their student mostly at home, but also maybe hire tutors or hire, instructional coach one way
Yeah.
or the other, educational therapy, they can do that on their own as long as they're taking care of, meeting those compulsory education laws that
Right.
the state has. So there's that. But the idea being that a parent could write off those expenses in their own state taxes with a tax credit.
Sure.
And then if they didn't have the funds for that, other people who don't have children, like myself, I could donate my state tax liability to a fund that would work as a scholarship for those parents who don't have a high tax
right.
liability, and I would get the tax credit for that.
Yes.
So, we ran it once. It took us 24 years to pass a charter law in
Yes.
Montana, and we're not going to give up. And that's how people can help, is by just talking about it, talking within their communities and letting other people know that they're interested, they have an idea. Some people might be able to support other people who have an idea by either jumping in and helping them out too, having a town meeting, talking about it at church. There are just so many ways that can spark creativity in education. And
Right.
it's hard to imagine what people will come up with, but they
Right.
will be, there'll be lots of options. A lot of people out there want a classical education and they can't afford a private school, because a lot of our private schools offer that. And so they're like, well, we want a community choice schools. That is a classical education. That's something we've seen be very successful in other states. So there's that. But people can reach me. I'm pretty easy to find because my email is on, is out there with the Board of Public Education. There's a tab for choice schools. And under there, you just keep following until you find the commission members. And there I am right there. Also, I'm trying to think. I'm on Facebook, just my name, Trish Schreiber. You can find me there.
Great.
And and call. Because I will pick up and talk to you. And
I do know that.
A lot of people have been calling recently saying, are there any jobs available or are there any volunteer opportunities where we can help out? And the answer is always yes. But we won't know what's going to fit for you until we talk about it.
Right.
And so there are just many, many ways. There are... like the Frontier Institute did a program a couple years ago with their Ed Navigate, and they did a lot of school choice training for interested individuals, and they were called ambassadors, and they went around into their own communities and talked about school choice. So it was great. There's just all kinds of stuff going on.
Well, Trish, that's so exciting. I just want to thank you so much for coming on the program today and talking all things education. It's really actually one of the most exciting things about the future in Montana is that we might have some autonomy. We might have some choice. Parents might be empowered in this movement. So just thank you for your work and thank you for joining us today.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. On behalf of the Montana Family Foundation, thank you for joining the Family Matters podcast. As always, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our new content. God bless.